Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, August 11th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Ball State game in 25 days, the game against Michigan in 109 days. Thanks to our friends at Jeff Ruby's Columbus for sponsoring today's show. They are proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. On today's episode, we're welcoming back in Buckeye Insiders scheme insider Michael Pettit. Football season right around the corner. You just heard 25 days away from that Ball State game. And when you watch that Ball State game, you're going to turn on the TV and you're going to hear three little letters probably a whole bunch of times. Those letters are R, P, and O. So on today's show, we're going to be doing something to let you know what exactly an RPO is so you can sort of recognize it. You can understand it, and when you see, I don't remember if it's a Fox game, it may be Gus and Joel, or it'll be someone else talking about an RPO, you can turn to your friends or your spouse or your kids and tell them, aha, allow me to explain it. I already know, because Michael Pettit explained it to me. So, Michael, let's start what is an RPO, and why has it been something that has become a real phenomenon in college football and even in the NFL over the last decade or so?
Yeah, so an RPO, what it stands for is run pass option. So, you think of old school option plays, they're, generally run option. A quarterback reads someone and decides whether to hand the ball off or to keep it himself and run. An RPO is a run pass option. So it's the same concept. The quarterback is reading one guy on the defense. And depending on what that guy does, the quarterback is either going to hand the ball off or he's going to pull the ball and make a pass. And one of the reasons that RPOs have become as popular as they have, in my opinion, is just because it kind of allows for a way for teams who don't have, a mobile quarterback to still run some option stuff and potentially put defenders in conflict. Because, as an offense, you always want to put defenders in positions where they're in conflict.
And I think one thing that people may not necessarily know about an RPO is you can basically read any player you want to. You're not just always reading, we're only reading the Mike linebacker, and whatever he does, that's going to, you can read any player on the defense, basically. Not exactly everyone. You're probably not going to be reading, your nose tackle all that often on an RPO, but this is something that is not just, you have to read this guy and know what, anything else is just, completely out of the question.
Yeah, you can read pretty much any defender depending on the type of RPO. It can be a linebacker, safety, even a corner, and even in some cases, defensive end. But yeah, to your point, I thought about it after you said it. I don't know that I've ever seen an RPO where the defensive tackle is being read. I've seen a couple with the defensive end, but yeah, it can be anyone on the defense essentially. And beyond that, the RPO can be any run scheme. You can run zone with it. You can run counter, power, ISO, whatever it is. You can attach any run scheme to it, and in the same vein, you can pretty much attach any type of route schemes for the pass option to it as well.
And you mentioned putting guys in conflict, and putting guys in conflict is essentially you're reading what the guy is doing, and then whatever he is doing and whatever he's trying to take away, you just do the other thing. So this feels like something where if you run it correctly, at least in theory, you can always be right.
Yeah, in theory you can. Defenders at some point can get a hold of things and they can start trying to bait the quarterback into making the wrong reads and stuff. But let's look at an example of an RPO here. I first want to go over an example of where the ball is handed off. The R in RPO is what the quarterback does. And like I said, it can be any different run play, any different route scheme. This RPO is from Ohio State's game against Penn State last season. The run scheme they're running here is ISO, or some people call it insert. So what ISO or insert is the offensive line is trying to create a hole for a lead blocker to come through and be isolated with a one-on-one block and a linebacker, with the running back following that lead blocker. So you'll see here, if you look at the play on the screen, I have the defender who Julian Sayin is reading circled in a red box, or I should say boxed in a red box. And if he backs up or sits still to defend the pass, Julian Sayin hands the ball off. If he comes up to defend the run, Julian Sayin pulls the ball and passes to that side. So what you're going to see here is that safety drops back when the ball is snapped. Julian Sayin sees that, so he makes the correct read to hand the ball off to Bo Jackson. And Max Clare, the tight end, is that lead blocker on the ISO run. He comes up, gets a good block on the Mike linebacker, and Jackson's able to go for about a 9-yard gain. And now if you want to look at the end zone view of this play, you can get a good idea of what the blocking scheme of ISO looks like. So you'll see the left tackle is blocking out on that defensive end. The left guard and the center are double teaming the 3-tech, climbing over to that will linebacker. The right guard is blocking out on that other 3-tech. The right tackle is blocking out on the other defensive end. They're able to create a nice hole for Max Clare, the tight end, to slip through and get a good isolation block on that linebacker.
All right, so that's an example of where the guy they were reading was backing up. So, okay, you hand the ball off, but obviously, if it's an option, you have a plan B here, and if the defender gets a little more aggressive or is trying to get into the run fit, you can throw the ball right over his head.
Yeah, so this next one, we're going to be looking at an example of the quarterback deciding to pass the ball on an RPO, which again here it's the right read. Once again, I have the defender being read in a red box on the screen here. And the offense, the run play attached to this is split zone. So you'll see the entire offensive line steps to their left to zone block. The tight end comes back to, block out on that defensive end. And both receivers to the bottom of the screen are running glance routes. A glance route I would describe as like somewhere in between a slant and a post. And Will Howard here is reading the safety to the field. And bear in mind, this is 4th and short here. And I think the safety was getting, a little aggressive, wanted to make sure he's there to clean up any runs. But you'll see he comes up when the ball is snapped to defend the run. So Will Howard sees that, and he's immediately able to pull the ball and pass to Brandon Innes on that glance route. And it was the perfect read. So, yeah, this is a good example of an RPO when a pass is the correct read.
And on the last show, we talked about the fact that we're sort of in a post-spread era or heading towards a post-spread era. Where are we on the scale of the RPO in the sport of football? Are those getting more popular still? Have we hit peak RPO and now defenses are starting to figure it out and you're going to see a little bit less of them as we're sort of going on this year? How big is the RPO going to be in Ohio State's offense this fall?
I want to say it'll be roughly the same. The RPO's been I wouldn't call it a huge part of Ohio State's offense over the past couple years, but it's been very much a part of the offense, and I think it'll continue to be a part of the offense. One unique type of RPO that you might see this year that it might look a little clunky is Arthur Smith actually runs RPOs under center instead of out of shotgun sometimes, which is pretty unique because RPOs, they can also be, look, the 2 examples I showed today were post-snap reads, the quarterback's reading what a guy does and then deciding to run or pass. But you can also run pre-snap RPO reads, and oftentimes that means you're reading the corner. Like if the corner is playing 12 yards off a receiver and the receiver's just running a 6-yard hitch route, you see that when the ball is snapped that the corner's giving him that much space and you can throw the ball real quick. But even that's usually done from shotgun. Arthur Smith will do things like that, pre-snap RPO reads from under center. So it might look a little odd, but that's something to look out for this year.
All right, well, if you enjoyed that show, and I would assume that you guys probably did, number one, congratulations. You sound a little smarter at your tailgate this fall as people are talking about that stuff. You can say, well, actually, Arthur Smith does this from under center sometimes, and people will be blown away. And if you enjoyed that, if you enjoy impressing people, may I suggest a membership at BuckeyeInsiders.com, because we have a team of insiders making you a smarter football fan. We cover the team, yes. We cover recruiting, yes. We have 2 scheme insiders as well who are there to answer your questions on the board. Make sure you are well informed, understand what's happening, and understand what it will mean for the Buckeyes and across college football this fall. You can sign up today at BuckeyeInsiders.com. Get access to our whole team of insiders, plus a really fun and active community on the Insiders Board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. And thanks again to our friends at Jeff Ruby's Columbus, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.